So I'm Mae Planert, podcaster and comedian and new mom.
Congratulations. So I'm trying to figure, I'm at the point where like I have to make a decision, and I've been doing this motherhood series and trying to figure out what I'm going to do. So I'm very fascinated about what other women have, their journeys have been like. So for you though, did you always want to be a mom? Is that the deal?
Yeah, I mean, I always knew that I was going to have a kid. I think like when I got pregnant, I was like, wait a second, like, hold on. Like, I don't know if I was this serious about it. And then you just sort of wrap your mind around it. Like, thankfully, as women, you have, 10 months to get over that feeling. But like, I think at any age, especially when you really like your life, to be honest,
Yeah.
you're kind of like, oh shit, this is going to be a huge change. And it's been great. I mean, a lot of the things I was afraid of haven't been an issue so far.
Oh, good.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely think like, it's a big decision. You got to be ready for it for sure, and feel like I think the number one thing is feeling like your partner is a good person to have the kid with.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Since having gone through this, I think it's like I think about some people I know, and like, I'm just like, oh wow, that would be really hard dealing with like that personality in this environment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure. That's the reason I've had an abortion in the past. I was
yeah,
like, not him.
and no, and that's honestly a very listen, 2 thumbs way up for that, and same.
So you were trying, right? But it seems like from my research, like it happened pretty fast.
It did. So I took my IUD out probably like September of last year. So like it had been like 8 months of us just like having sex like regular people, but him not pulling the goalie for like, so it took at least like 8 to 9 months, whatever that is. But it was crazy because I was filming my special in April and I was so stressed out about it, which is really funny because now having perspective and having like a child now, I'm like, who cares? Like, it's a set, you put it on the internet and you move on with your fucking life. But I was like so beyond stressed out by this. And then the very next month we got pregnant. And so, I wouldn't say this in certain company, but I do think that there is an element of like when you're really relaxed and your body feels good and you feel, and you're not super stressed about something, it just kind of lends itself to letting them pass the goalie, I guess. So
Yeah. That's such a trip, like the special, the timing of it, and now, yeah, it's like you're doing jokes about, you were right to do it then, because now
yes,
this new, whatever comes next will be about totally different stuff, I'm sure.
no, absolutely. I was like, so, because I had only been doing comedy like 6 years at that point, and so people were like, why a special right now? Like, who, what are you thinking, basically? And I was like, well, I'm thinking, like, for me, I'm very autobiographical on stage, so I wanted to, like, offload this shit so I could move on to this next chapter of my life, and then, gotta say, the timing was perfect, so I was completely right.
Totally. So, okay, let's talk about pregnancy, like, what I want to know about your experience, like anything that surprised you. I heard you say in an interview you were like, fuck it, I'm having caffeine.
Yeah. No, I had
also,
caffeine the whole time.
That's amazing. Yeah, I would love to know like your experience with it, the decision making that went into that, and then like I've had a long history with ED. Did you have any of that body stuff come up?
I did. So it was like weird watching your body change. Because, you're taught your whole life not to have a gut, obviously. That's like the worst thing you could possibly have as a woman is a gut. Forget a bad personality. It's the bad stomach or whatever. But actually, towards the end of pregnancy, I was kind of like feeling myself because, I don't know, you just kind of like, it's the only time in your life that you really actually eat intuitively. Because you're like, oh, my baby must need this, and that's why I'm craving it, where normally you just guilt yourself into fucking oblivion for wanting an extra piece of chicken, or whatever the fuck it is, like, not even that serious. And then, sorry, my baby's crying, speaking of.
It's okay. You need to, like, go. That's okay.
No, it's okay. Mark has him. But, yeah, I was like, I think like towards the end of my pregnancy, I definitely, like once I started showing, I actually really enjoyed it, which is not
great.
something that I thought I would. Yeah, I've kind of really enjoyed it. 'Cause I felt like I had like a free pass, and you could wear like really cute outfits and have your bump show. It was like the only time in my life I ever had my stomach showing. Ironically, is when I was pregnant.
That's so funny. You did a really cute pregnancy shoot. I saw.
Thanks. Yeah, we were proud of that. But I also think like I was staying like really diligent about the stretch mark cream and stuff like that because I was like, well, obviously I'll have to end my life if I have one fucking stretch mark. Yeah, but like you kind of get over things really quickly. Like I also thought that after I gave birth, I was like, oh, I'm going to be one of these people who's like super frustrated that I'm not a size 2 immediately. And I've given myself way more grace than I thought I would.
Oh, good.
Because like afterwards, I'm just like, this is normal. You know, what just happened was fucking insane. So I'm giving myself a lot more props than I ever have. It's actually like, I might be the only person in history to say this, but I feel like my pregnancy made eating disorder stuff better.
Good.
In some ways. Because you're just like grateful for what happened. This sounds corny as fuck, but it's just true. Or it's, I guess, authentic to what my experience has been.
Was there anything else about the pregnancy part of it that like surprised you or that you made like maybe an unconventional decision or something?
Well, I'm a big drinker. I love to drink, and is that bad? But I'm
a big stoner.
Yeah, God forbid. But I thought that would be much harder for me, and it was kind of like in the beginning I was a little like, it was, you know, life is just a little less colorful when you're not fucked up. So and then it got so much easier though, like to the point that like you can have one glass of wine every once in a while when you're pregnant. I know it's like a controversial take, but I'm telling you, I know like doctors that are friends of mine and they're like, if you were my patient I wouldn't tell you that, but as a friend, like it's fine. And like I didn't even really want it. I like, you know, I probably had like 4 glasses of wine total throughout the entire pregnancy, like once every few months at, you know, a wedding or something like that. But it really wasn't that big of a deal. And like even now, I mean, I'm only 3 weeks postpartum, so I'm sure my tolerance will come back. But like I'm going to hang out with friends later and I'm like, I don't necessarily need to have alcohol because I've gotten used to just being in situations without alcohol. And I'm like I'm a crazy extrovert. I like being around people a lot. So that would be great if I didn't have to drink every fucking time. So.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then you scheduled the C-section. Is that how the childbirth went down? Tell us about the birth.
So this is also controversial. So this is...
Dude, that's what I would do for sure. Okay. I cannot imagine pushing it out.
Thank you. Because I wanted to schedule the C-section. There was no medical reason to have the C-section. And everyone told me I was fucking crazy. Like my mom, my sister, they were like, you're insane. It's a way worse process, blah, blah, blah. But then like I talked to so many people about it and I've heard like horror stories from the vaginal birth. And so, and like some of them are great. Some of them are like, oh yeah, I pushed him out in 3 hours and I felt like I could go to the gym the next day. And you're like, okay, great.
Or
like
I had the best orgasm of my life. I'm like, okay, but that's rare.
Yeah, I know. What is up with that? I actually read this book where it said, it was like some French parenting book or whatever. Yeah. And and it said that this lady, she was like an American lady giving birth in Paris, and she asked the midwife to like finger her afterwards so she could have an orgasm, and the midwife was like, no. I don't know what the fuck's going on in LA, but that doesn't happen here. But
so funny.
No, people are deranged. But yeah, I had heard so many horror stories about that, and then like people were like, oh yeah, and then you get sewed up and you have scar tissue, but it's not that big of a deal. And I was like, you know what? Like, I don't know. My vagina is pretty important to me. And like,
I know.
It's pretty like it's like I don't know. If something's wrong with my vagina, I feel like it fucks up my mental health. So I was like, I'd rather not. Like, cause it could go great or it could go horribly. And I've heard both sides, and like I didn't want to have to do all like the physical therapy and all that afterwards to kind of like get it back. Like I would, I mean, you're not really exempt from that anyway with a C-section because your pelvic floor is kind of fucked, but at least like the foundation, the way that my vagina looks is the same. So I can be happy about that.
And you get to like know when it's going to go down. And like I feel like, did that give you a sense of control over the experience or no?
No, it didn't. And the reason why was because I think because I was having an elected C-section and there was like truly no reason for me to have it, that I was like at the bottom of the totem pole. But they were pushing me around because I wanted to do it closer to his due date, because in my mind I was like, oh, he's not done cooking yet. And they were like, no, you have to do it at 39 weeks. And I don't know, for some reason, I just didn't like that idea. I just wanted it to be closer to his due date, and they wouldn't let me. They were like, you can either have the C-section as you want it to be, or like risk going into labor, and we can't schedule you that week. And they were completely right. Like when he came out, he was fully baked. He was 8 pounds, 3 ounces, which also pretty glad that didn't come out of my vagina. But yeah, I felt kind of pushed around like by the New York City hospital system. So I didn't really feel much control over it. And I definitely cried that morning because telling Mark, I was like, I'm not ready. He's not ready, but he was ready.
So how was the actual experience of it? Was the surgery pretty chill or? It's
metal. It is metal. Like, it was fucking metal, dude. Because I had talked to so many people, one of which was Rachel Feinstein, who's a hilarious comedian. I'm sure you know her, but she had an elected C-section as well, which, by the way, I think is like comedian brain or something, because separately we both had that idea. And I think Rosebud also
Yes, I was going to say,
elected.
I think she did. Yeah.
And I for the longest time when I wanted kids, I was like, I would totally rather have a C-section than have it come out naturally. And they, I guess, felt the same way. So I talked to them about their experience. And like, I think, that saying where once you've had a kid for a while, you totally forget what the experience was is completely true. Because they were like, oh yeah, it takes 2 seconds, then you heal in like 4 days. And I was like, well, it was pretty good. It wasn't that bad, but it definitely wasn't what you're describing. Like, that sounds really good.
Are you still feeling it?
A little. Like, my stomach is crazy jiggly. Like, if you punched my stomach, you'd see your hand out my fucking back. Like, it's like holy shit. And the scar is like pretty gnarly. I have to take like Tylenol every day, but nothing crazy. But I feel like I definitely can't like run yet, but I could like walk long distances. I can walk upstairs. I can carry the baby. It's really no big deal. And it was probably like a week of like feeling like you were in a serious car accident, and then everything was completely fine. So, but the actual process of the C-section, they like bring you in, you're awake for the whole thing, which obviously everyone knows, or most women know this, but I tell guys and they're like, what? And I'm like, yes, you're completely awake. You're completely aware. And they give you this like localized anesthesia that's just from here down, and you're just numb. You're just sitting there numb.
Oh God.
And like, you can smell crazy stuff. You can feel them like tugging your body like from side to side on the table. That's what it felt like anyway. I'm sure they were just like moving organs around, but that's what it felt like to me. Because everyone tells you, they're like, oh, you feel nothing. And I'm like, well, that's not true. Like, you don't feel nothing. You feel like the sensation of like my body's being ripped open. And then when he actually came out, it felt like you could totally feel the pressure of him, like boom, boom. And it was like, oh my God, it was crazy. It was insane. And they asked me, they were like, do you want to see him leaving your body? I was like, hard pass. Hard fucking pass. Like, no. And then, so they take you to this recovery room, and you're on these like crazy narcotics. I think you're literally on, fentanyl and all this crazy shit. Yeah. So like, I was like, oh, this isn't so bad at all. I feel great. Like, I was like, I'm actually happier than I've ever been my whole life. And then they're like, the doctor's like, we really need to warn you about tomorrow, because tomorrow is going to be a brand new day.
Was it?
Yeah. like it, I mean, I definitely hurt real bad for, like I said, like a week, and then it gets okay. And now I feel like I could even do like a yoga class, and so I'm only 3 weeks out.
Oh, that's good.
So I still feel like it's pretty worth it because I've talked to some friends that have had the old-fashioned way, and they didn't have such a great experience. Like, it was a tough birth, and they're like, I'm also moving slow. Like, I'm not exactly going to fucking berries. So
Yeah. Also, sometimes you do the old-fashioned way and then you wind up having to get a C-section anyway, and it's like the worst of both worlds. Yeah.
Yes, that was my biggest fear, and I honestly feel like that probably would have happened to me because he was such a big baby and it was my first birth. If it was like my second or third birth and he was that weight, then maybe it would be okay, but like, I don't know. And so I feel like my intuition and my instincts were right, and just going and to be like, skip the fucking middleman and just give me a C-section because what are we doing here? You know what I mean? And like these New York City hospitals, I don't know, like if it's just hospitals period, but I just feel like they're churning us out like cattle. You know, so they would be like, okay, well, you've been laboring for X amount of time, like let's get you on the OR.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I felt.
I heard Mark's version on Tuesdays. He said he cried. Were you emotional in that first day?
Yeah, I was emotional, but like, it was weird. It was like meeting a celebrity. Like,
I love that.
Because they take him, you know, obviously, like, they take him out, they take him over to get cleaned, whatever. And you, like, hear his cry, and I was like, oh, my God, Marky's over there. Oh, my God, I'm so nervous. And then he came over, and I was all high, and he is, like, insane. He was, like, incredibly puffy when he comes out, because I guess he's, like, full of liquid or whatever. And he had a huge nose. I was like, this kid's got a fucking schnoz. But it since went down. He still kind of has a schnoz. But yeah, I think he's taking a poop right now, if I'm being honest. So he's settled down.
Is it love at first sight, or is it like a grower kind of experience?
For me, it was kind of both. Like, I mean, I definitely was like in awe of him at first sight, but then it gets more and more every day, I would say.
Yeah.
And he's like turning into like a real boy. Like his eyes are getting big, you know. Oh, he's yelling right now. I don't know what his problem is.
He needs something.
He might need something. Give me just 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
baby Coos, so cute.
I know. I think he just wanted to change his scenery, but maybe he needs his diaper changed. All right, he seems all right.
Is he gravitating towards you?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, but that's just because I'm breastfeeding him, I think. Which, by the way, that sucks.
Does it?
It is the worst thing of all time. Hey, honey. Okay, now he's chill. But it is insanely terrible, and that's one thing no one tells you about. Like, because you feel like it's like this natural thing. You're like, oh, they'll know what to do. I'll know what to do. And no, like it's terrible. My fucking nipples were like bleeding like crazy.
Oh God.
It was crazy. Yeah, it was insane. Like he literally like ate my blood like a vampire.
How long are you gonna do it?
My goal is to do it for at least 3 months, but we'll see. I mean, it's fucking horrible. Like Mark was like, what do you think is the worst part about it? I was like, I don't know. There's so many horrible aspects. Like, I think like the fact that I'm like on a clock all the time, like I'll leave the house, but I can only leave for 2 hours and I have to be back for him is tough. And then it's physically painful. I have to get up in the middle of the night. So like we hired a lady for some nights, not all nights, but like 3 nights a week to come over and help us at during the nighttime. But it doesn't even really matter for me because I still get up and feed him. Yeah. So, oh my God, it is not for the weak. It is crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I might have to be like, I'll do it for like a week or two and then formula. Like, sorry, we'll get you nice formula, but.
I know. Yeah, that was the other thing too, is that I got formula just in case, because sometimes your milk doesn't come in. And I was like, I don't want it to be a situation where it's like 2:00 in the morning and he's starving and I can't feed him. So I just bought some stuff from Europe because in my brain it's just better over there. I don't know if
that is my plan too. Yes.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, whatever. But and I guess you couldn't order from this one company unless you got like a massive quantity. So I was like, I guess baby formula is $200. Like, I was like and then we got like a fucking crate worth of formula that we're probably not even going to use. I guess we'll donate it if we have to, but I know that is one thing that is really annoying because the data is like completely there when it comes to breastfeeding. It's just better for them. And so I'm like, I wish there was a study that would come out and be like, there's no difference. I'd be like, great, bye.
Yeah.
But I feel too guilty not doing it. So I'm going to give it a valiant effort.
Yeah. Tell us about your research process. Like, it sounds like you read a bunch of books.
Yeah. TikTok. And there's this book, Expecting Better, I think.
Yes.
That, people have a lot of opinions about. That's where I got you could have a glass of wine every once in a while. You can have caffeine in limited amounts, that kind of stuff. I really liked that book. And I know that people have big opinions on it, but I don't know. Like, I'm not a type A person. I'm a type B, I'm a type C person. I'm like, I lose my passport. I'm like that kind of person. I'm going to be a great mom. But, like, I don't know. I don't like rigidness in, like, I even think, like, when it comes to, how we'll sleep train him and stuff, like, we're going to follow a schedule and that kind of thing, but it's not going to be so, tightwad about it. So I liked more of the parenting styles that were just like loosey-goosey and, like, for lack of a better term, it sounds like pretentious, but like European. Like, I'm never going to be the type of mom that's like, oh, Van, it's the weekend, so we have to bring Van to Dave & Buster's and only Dave & Buster. I'm going to be like, you want a fucking activity? We're going to the farmer's market and then we're going to make lunch. You know what I mean? So
that's kind of European too, though, to like have it be parent-centric versus like kid-centric.
Exactly. Yeah. And I actually, my day job is headquartered in Paris. And so I have some friends that are from France, and they're like, when you have a kid in France, it's like, okay, now you just do whatever you would normally do, but you bring the kid along within reason. You're not like fucking going to a rave with a child, but but they were like, it's so weird how American parents, like, everything has to be so regimented, and it's like, it's nap time, so he has to be in his bassinet in this exact fucking snuggle thing or whatever. They're like, it doesn't work like that. Like, they just go to the restaurant and they're in the fucking stroller and they say, this is it today, whatever. And some days you'll be in the bassinet with your perfect little whatever. Some days you won't. And so I think that's good. I also think, like, New York City is a great place to have that type of parenting style. Yeah. And another thing is, like, I don't really have many friends with kids, which is a negative in my mind in some ways, but also in other ways I'm like, well, now I get to parent him exactly how I want to parent him. Yeah. Where, like, I don't know, like, other people that I know, they have, like, their friends with kids, and it's like, oh, well, nap time is from this time to this time, and we're the da-da-da-da, and it's very specific, but I'm like, I don't know, me and Mark, we could just have this kid on whatever schedule works for us right now and not for, like, other windows of other parents.
That's great. What about these first 3 weeks? Like, what's been surprising or what's been going down? How's it been?
I feel like this the way that I'm coming across is so obnoxious because I'm like, it's been great. But seriously.
I honestly thought I was going to talk to you and you were going to be like, ah!
Yeah. Like, this sounds so, I'm sure there's, like, moms out there that'd be rolling their eyes so fucking hard. But I feel like I'm surprised by how chill it is. That's amazing. People describe it as, like, the newborn trenches and all this stuff. And I'm like, it hasn't been that bad. Maybe I'm jinxing myself in a fucking serious way. And he's about to become the most colicky baby ever. But I think it's a combination of a few things. Like, it's winter time, so I don't really feel guilty about not being outside. It's freezing cold out anyway. And I think we lucked out with a really good kid, but maybe everyone thinks that. And we just moved into, like, a really big space, so it just feels, like, comfortable and all that. So, like, but the chillness of it is good. And, before I had kids, like, a screaming baby would be like, ugh, it's a screaming baby. But, like, you don't really mind when it's your own. I don't know. It's like, it sounds different to me. I'm like, oh, there's, like, a problem and he needs fixing. And That's it.
Yeah.
Some advice actually Mark and I got, which resonated really well with us, but it's just funny advice when you say it surface level, is like, you have to think of yourselves as like a team and the baby is the problem.
Oh.
So they were like, instead of being like, I'm trying to get the baby down and Mark's also trying to get the baby down. It's like, we are a united front. The baby is like a bomb and we need to like dismantle the bomb together. Like, yeah. It's like having an escape room, but really the only options are poop, eat, and sleep. Is that what he wants? So.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. I feel like, I've been with my husband for like 8 years now, but if you have a really good relationship, I don't know, were you scared about throwing like another factor into it?
I was. But actually, I think like so far so good.
Good.
3 weeks in. I am really nervous about what will change when I'm off of maternity leave and, like life picks back up, because Mark hasn't been traveling. And so like when that happens, I think that would be like a really big adjustment to us. Because right now we're in this like nice little bubble where it's like, of course it's chill. We're just like watching TV all day. It's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But then eventually I'm going to have work, I'm going to have comedy, I'm going to have, friendships. I'm going to have all these things that need attention outside of the baby, and Mark is going to be traveling. And so we're trying to prepare for that.
Are you thinking like a nanny?
We're thinking a nanny on the weekends to help me, because I was like, every once in a while, if it's just me and Van on the weekends, it's not so bad. But if it's every single weekend that I'm the sole person responsible for him, that's just like a lot.
Yeah.
So we're looking for that if anybody knows anybody, because it's difficult to find people on the weekends, because usually people do the Monday through Friday is when they work. But yeah, we'll see. So that would work for us. And then ideally, like Monday through Thursday, we could spend some time as a family at lunches and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So yeah. A part of my like reason for wanting to have kids is that I want to give my parents a grandchild. I know this sounds so stupid.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Has it changed your relationship with your parents, or was that really sweet to see?
I mean, I think like, yes, because you really don't understand the sacrifices they've been through until you do it. Like my mom gave birth vaginally 3 times with no medication, like a psychopath. Like truly, like what is wrong with her? I was like, what? And she works in a hospital, so I was like, you trusted the epidural, and she was like, yeah, but I just didn't feel like I needed one. And I was like, oh my God, what is wrong with you? That is the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. But just the fact that she went through it 3 times, I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. All for us, and I like barely call you. I call you like once every 2 weeks.
Is it their first grandchild?
No, it's their third.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So they weren't like, was it Mark's parents first?
No, it's also their third, actually.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So they were old hat. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's changed like my relationship with them, where you're like, wow, you guys really like me. Yeah.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah, and no, they're like very excited. My mom's coming down to New York, and Mark's parents are coming for 10 days in a few days. So
nice.
Yeah.
Have you been like? I'm sure there's so much going on. Have you been like? Is there new material right and left?
Not tons. Because I think like the comedian, or at least for me anyway, like the instinct is to go mean about it. And I'm like, I don't want to be mean to my little guy yet. You know what I mean? Like, so that's been, I guess there'll be like something about it. I mean, breastfeeding, there's a lot of material there. I mean, literally my son's saliva is all over my nipples right now. Like, think about how disgusting that is. It's fucking crazy. So I think I'll probably have material, definitely will have material about it. I don't know about Mark, because Mark's not really autobiographical. It's more just like one joke. It's not like about him necessarily, but for me, it'll probably be more about the baby and about life and that kind of thing. I had like, when I was pregnant, I had probably like 15 minutes on pregnancy. And that was right after
Did you film it?
I did film it, and I'm probably just going to put it out in like clips or whatever.
Yeah.
But And so that was after my special. And so I was like saying to Mark, I was like, well, now I have no material again because, oh my God. And then one of my friends, I was out to lunch with her. She will go unnamed. But one of my friends goes, she was like, well, you could always pretend you're still pregnant because you look pregnant still. I was like, babe, that is not what I want to hear. That is fucking not what I want to hear. And I was like, 2 weeks postpartum. I was like, of course I still look pregnant, you fucking bitch.
Yeah, seriously. Oh my God.
Yeah. And that would be so unhinged if I was just on stage pretending to still be pregnant. That'd be crazy.
So I heard you talk about like mourning your identity, kind of when you were pregnant. Has that been a tough transition, or is it like easier now that the baby's here?
I think it's easier now that the baby's here, because when you're pregnant, it's like, I don't know, it's all anybody wants to talk about with you too. And I've like set a precedent with my friends where I'm like, if we're hanging out and I have like the baby right here in a Bjorn, like we don't have to talk about the baby. We can just be like, hey, what's up, little guy? And then we can talk about, you know, whatever the fuck, what's going on in the news. We're talking shit about some comedian we don't like. Or whatever. Yeah. But like, I feel like it's good for the baby. It's good for the parents to have separation, have boundaries. I'm very waspy. And I think like the older I get, the more I can appreciate my parents and the waspiness. Like there needs to be clear boundaries. Like he has his bed, we have our bed. Good night. So.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
So, okay, now that you've gone through like all these stages, I know you're new at this new stage, but what kind of, I'm sure you got like just a shit ton of advice. What was good? What do you wish somebody would have told you?
It's like such simple advice, but somebody just told me, follow your instincts. They were like, literally, we're animals. He's an animal. You're an animal. Your instincts will tell you. Don't over intellectualize anything, which is really not my speed anyway. But they were like, there's all these gadgets and all this crazy shit. Everything has a fucking app. And they're like, and you put it on his foot and then it tells you how deeply he slept and whatever. And I'm just like, you know what? I don't need to know all this information. It's just like, did he sleep? Did he not sleep? Is he cranky right now? Is he not? And that's it. And so I think like simplifying it was really good advice. Because there's like everything requires a fucking app. I have like 7 apps for my child. And I'm like, can't I just look at him and like,
he doesn't have a phone yet. Like, Jesus.
Exactly. It's so annoying. And I think what I wish somebody would have told me is maybe like start having the nanny conversations earlier and stuff. Because I also think like Mark is such a literal person, which is part of what makes him so funny. But I was like asking about the nanny on the weekends, and he was like, well, you don't want to be here on the weekends? And I was like, no, I'm going to be here on the weekends. But he thought I meant like right now, like in this postpartum time. And I was like, no, I'm talking about like when I go back to work and stuff. And so I had to like clarify that to him. I don't know. Mark's not great at like future talk with stuff like that. So yeah, I think like being wildly over communicative with your partner.
Yeah.
And also some good advice I got was also from that French parenting book. They're like no nonsense over there. But they were like as the woman, you just naturally know what to do in a lot of situations and where the man doesn't, and it's not their fault. Yeah. So the worst thing you could do is like get frustrated with your husband and yell at him for something that like isn't his intention. Yeah. So they were like, this is how they said it in the book. I don't treat Mark like this, just to be clear. But this is how they said it in the book. They were like, treat him like he's a helpless, like slow adult, basically. They were like, just treat your husband like he's a moron and everything will be great. Like,
that's so funny.
I have not had to do that. He's been doing such a good job, but I think like in general, that's pretty good advice for a lot of couples I know.
Yeah. Do you want to have like, now that you've done it once, are you like, I'm good for a while? Or are you like, I could do this again soon?
So I think I'm waiting until I forget how insane the C-section was and all that. Because I have to get another C-section now that I've chosen this path.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I could try to go the other way, but like, again, why would I want to? So I'm definitely not going to do that. But I think, like, when I was pregnant, I was telling Mark, I was like, I'm ready. I was like, once we can start having sex again, like, let's just fucking go for it again, because you know what, I'm going to be ready. And I want to, like, I really want the kids to be close in age.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah.
But for me now, at this time, like right now in this moment, I'm like, it'd be nice to have a year not being pregnant. And I think that's reasonable too, because then they would only be, 2 years apart. That's not so bad.
Are you thinking 2?
I'm thinking 2. I think I'm one of 3. How many siblings do you have?
I have 4.
4, yeah. Okay. So I really like the big family dynamic. And I loved it growing up. I love it as an adult, like having my 2 siblings, and we have, different relationships at different times in our lives. And I don't know, it's just fun. I just really like that. So, like, in a world where we could have 3, I would have 3, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
In New York, I'm not exactly 23 years old either. I'm like, so I'm a little older than 23 years old.
Are you glad it happened at this age?
I think so, because if it happened any earlier, I would feel kind of gypped.
Yeah.
I think. And then if it happened any later, I would worry about having the second one and that kind of stuff. Like, I feel like I'm definitely ready for it. But it's just, you gotta, like, it is also like, I have, in New York, everyone has Peter Pan syndrome.
Totally. Oh my God, LA for sure.
100%. So, like, the fact that I'm 34 and I'm a first time mom, like, in most of the world is like, okay, that's, you're running the clock out here. Like, you're very late. But, like, in New York City, I know so many 38-year-olds, 39-year-olds are like, maybe I'll want kids someday, whatever. Yeah. And so I do feel like a smidge gypped, but I'm also the kind of person where I don't see this as like, and we're very blessed. Let's get that out of the way too. We're very fortunate people. So I can get help. We can afford help and that kind of stuff. So my life will change, but I can still do things I want to do. I can still do sets, even though I make no money. Like, I can still do a lot of the things that I want to do. I just have to plan a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, wonderful. I'm so, okay. This timing is amazing. I was telling a friend, I was like, I feel like I'm going to talk to an oracle.
An oracle? Oh, that's so funny. I don't know about that.
Any final thoughts about new motherhood or anything that you've experienced?
I think if you guys are on the fence about it, it's really not as scary as people make it out to be. I think the internet in general, but definitely about motherhood, kind of like fosters this insanely negative attitude about things, because that's what gets clicks, that's what gets views, and people are like, yes, mama, you can say it, whatever. But it's really not as scary as I thought it was going to be. This is like famous last words. He's going to start screaming, and I'm going to get postpartum depression next week. But oh, this is really funny actually, is that we have this night nurse, and she's Jamaican, and she was telling me, she was like, oh, you're one of the best clients I have, because most of the white women that I work with are just crying all the time. And she goes, in Jamaica, we don't get postpartum depression, so it doesn't exist. She goes, it's a made up white people thing. And I was like, okay. Yeah. And I was like, that's so funny you say that though, because before I had him, I was, you get inundated with all this shit on social media. And I was like, here come the sads, here comes the depression. And so far so good. But, you're kind of like watching for it around your shoulder all the fucking time. And she was like, if you're looking for something so hard, it's going to come. If you just live your life. And she was like, some days you'll be sad. That's, how it goes in the world, like with a baby or without a baby.
Tell people about your special and where they can find you on the internet.
Yeah, so my special is out on Apple, Prime, Spotify.
YouTube, I think.
YouTube as well. Yes, it is through Comedy Dynamics. Shout out to Chris Waitkus, who's a friend of mine. He got me in touch with, do you know Chris Waitkus?
No.
Oh, you should look him up. He's great. He has a special through them as well, so he hooked me up with them. It's behind a paywall right now. It's only $5, but
Yeah.
anyway.
Highly recommend. Who is she?
Thank you. Who is she? Yes, is what it's called. I also have a podcast called Risque Business News. I do that with Laura Sogar. And what else? You can find me on Instagram at Mae_Planert, and all the other social medias I really slack on. So just follow me on Instagram. So yeah.
Thank you so much. You've been such an amazing oracle.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I hope I didn't come across too, like, I don't know,
You were
privileged
perfect
about it. I'm like, for me, everything's wonderful and blissful. Everyone's like, fuck off.
We can only hope.